All right. Hey guys, my name's Ryan Stick. I'm owner of the Billiard Factory. I'm at my house. I've got my kids here with me. So we are excited to try to pull off our first virtual event. We've got Jaden Dupree and Jeanette Lee, who I'm hoping everybody is aware that that's why you're on. A couple of little background about Jaden. He is been with the Billiard Factory now for a little less than a year. We got 150,000 followers on YouTube. He's 16 years old, and one of his top videos has been seen 3.2 million times. Does some amazing trick shots and a great pool player as well. And then, of course, Jeanette, who worldwide famous for her trick shots and great pool abilities. We're glad we're here with us tonight to get some commentary from her and maybe learn a few things with you guys. So I feel like it's a special kind of event. We're going to see how it goes for about 30 minutes. And between Jaden and Jeanette, you should be in for a good bit of fun here. So why don't I'll turn it over to Jeanette. I think you've got a few things to say and give away here.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really excited that you guys are able to spend some time with us. I've actually I moved here to Tampa, Florida, and it's beautiful here. We've still got a lot of people playing pool, and I've noticed there's also a lot of people investing more in billiard supplies and just having people over in a smaller environment. So it's really cool to just see everyone getting kind of back into playing more regularly. I myself bought the Tampa Bay APA pool leagues here, so that's been a huge change for me because I went from very few people having my cell phone to an entire league full of people. But it's great connecting with people that have such a passion for the game. I think when I was touring and mainly just touring, you do, I think, more in our sport than in a lot of other sports. We actually are very approachable and get a lot of time with our fans, but not to this extent. And I know that for me, over this current year, I've spent a lot more time on YouTube than I've seen before. So I got to see Jaden Dupree doing his thing with the trick shots. And I think it's so cool. And I was actually starting to do that as well. And I still struggle with it, being able to maintain your following and constantly giving something fresh. So I give a lot of respect to Jaden for that. I think we're gonna actually spend some time with Jaden. He's gonna do some trick shots and we'll be doing some Q&As, but I wanted to see if we would like to give away some Q-Tech Access billiard gloves out to you guys. So there'll be some information for you on how that'll all take place, but we've got a wonderful spin wheel that I think that we can get going. Let's see. Ooh, all right, we've got Raul Benavides. Congratulations, winner, chicken dinner. All right, and are we going to do one more? Let's see. Van Toss is our second winner, and I'm sure that we have some more, but it would be great if we could talk to Jaden a little bit.
Yeah, thank you, Jeanette. What's up, guys? I'm Jaden Dupree. I live here in Austin, Texas. As you know, I have a YouTube channel. I partnered with the Billiard Factory a little less than a year ago. And I'm doing everything virtual on Zoom right now. So school hours have really allowed me to play pool a lot and create some content for you guys. And I'm happy to keep doing that. So we have some more giveaways to do, the more Q-Tech Access gloves. We have about 2 more. So if we could get that awesome wheel up there again. All right, here we go. Good luck, everybody. And congratulations. Billiard Factory will be sending you We'll be getting your information, sending you out your glove very soon. And we have one more. And thank you for joining us, and you'll send out your gloves soon. So we're gonna go ahead and jump right into it. So I'm gonna do some trick shots for you guys today, and hopefully teach you a little bit as well. And we're gonna start off with some classic trick shots. Now this is one of the oldest ones in the book. I bet Jeanette has probably done this one thousands of times.
My favorite.
Called
I
the
love
railroad shot. So if you want to learn how to set this shot up, you have to have at least 4 cues. So raid your local pool hall and then just shoot this shot forever until all the players get mad at you for taking their cues. So we're going to set this up so you set 2 cues up and then you leave one extra little gap right here. And this is actually one of my favorite shots because you actually know you've made it for about 30 seconds before you even make the ball. So we're going to set up a ball in front of this side pocket here. Make sure these cues line up towards it. Now, if you're not so great with your 3 rail kicks yet, so I like to play this shot cue ball off 1, 2, 3 rails and then into this little gap right here. But some people, you have kids that want to learn this shot, or maybe your 3 rail kicks aren't as accurate as you like, you can just shoot it right up the middle. It's still just as fun. So we're going to aim about close to this pocket with some right spin, and then hit it pretty hard, but not so hard that the cue ball flies off the table, and then you have a lawsuit on your hands. So we're going to go ahead and attempt that one there. And there you go. You know you've made it for about 30 seconds, so you can just like sit over here, grab a drink or something. Yeah, everything's all good. So, another really classic shot that Jeanette has probably done 1,000 times as well as myself. Let me set these cues down over here, get them out of the way. Actually involves a rack in the shot. So for this one, you need a rack and just a couple balls. So you're all set up to do this one already. So this is called the pyramid shot, and it's another really fun shot. So you set up some balls underneath the triangle, just like that. Boom, setup is done. Super easy. And all you have to do, sometimes I like to stack more balls and then more racks on top. But if you miss, you make a really loud noise and people get mad at you. So I don't recommend stacking them that high inside of a pool hall. But what you do is you play a normal stop shot. Now, if you don't know what a stop shot is, it's when you hit either center when the balls are close or slightly below center. And on a straight end shot, the cue ball should stop right where it is. So you're going to play the same type of shot, just slightly below center or maybe even center at a higher pace. I like to shoot it a bit below center. That way I don't have to shoot it too hard. Looks cooler to me. So we're going to make this 6 ball. The cue ball is actually going to slide under the rack and stop right here and prevent the rack from falling down, hopefully. So we're going to line this up so it's straight. And there we go. So that's another fun one that you can do at your house or at a pool hall when you're trying to impress your friends at Tampa APA League. So another thing. Yes, Jeanette?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say the shot that he just shot, it's the standard stop shot. And I think it's a shot that everybody takes for granted. But if you were to actually just go up there and set it up and actually get it to just stop right in its track and not even slightly, it's harder than you think. And it's kind of the foundation of all of pool. So he's making it look easy, but if you hit it too hard, it might come back too much, too high. And so it's a fun shot, and I hope you guys know that it's not as easy as it looks. It does take a nice balance between speed and the vertical axis of the cue stick. of the
It's
cue ball.
a very, very important shot in your everyday pool game. And just to give you a little example of how people take it for granted and how it looks easier than it is, there's a video on the internet out there of Shane Van Boening doing this. Shane Van Boening, arguably the #1 pool player in America, probably not that arguable.
No.
But he was actually shooting a challenge just to see how well he could do. And the idea was to stop the cue ball and make the ball with this setup right here. And he actually failed it about 3 times out of 10. So #1 pool player in America, not making this stop shot shows you how hard it can actually be. Now, another thing a lot of people want to see is, how do I get better? How do I improve my game? Now, I'm saying not all of us are professional pool players like Jeanette was, and we just want to do well in our league and impress our friends. So I have a really, really basic setup right here. That's a great drill, and you can also change it to adapt as you get better at the game, as you get better at the drill. You can change the drill to make it harder. So this is just the basic form of the drill. Some people call it the box, some people call it the L. The idea is you just try to make the balls 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cue ball cannot touch another ball, and you're just trying to make them all into this pocket. So if you're running this drill, you can shoot it many ways. You can, if you're struggling with your low right spin, then you can make it to where you only have to play low right spin. So running it out this way, playing low right on every shot until you get to here, for me at least. And so I'm going to show you some ways that you can make this drill a little more difficult as you get better. So one thing you can do is just increase the number of balls. Another thing you can do, instead of at this first diamond, reach it out to that diamond. So it looks more like that. And obviously that's harder, and then you can add more balls in between. So a lot of people view this drill as a really basic drill and don't bother spending any time on it. But they don't actually think of ways that you can make easy basic drills harder. And you can actually change drills to the shots that you have the most difficulty with. I know everyone hates to miss, but missing can be a good thing if you're starting to get better at it. So, yeah. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, not at all. What I was thinking is, when he's showing you these drills, I think an important factor for me when I'm teaching people, I'm always talking about, I think the better we get, the more we realize the mental side of the game. And the way that I compare it is to basketball. Everybody knows about basketball, and you've got these guys making millions of dollars. And the one shot you know that they're going to get, that's in every game all over the world, is the free throw, just basic free throw. And even though they're getting paid millions of dollars, no matter where you are in the world, it's the same distance, it's the same height. So you would think that that's one shot that they can all make at least 80% of the time. And it's not the case. And that's because your adrenaline's pumping, you're sitting there, and you don't have the luxury of reacting. Ball's coming after you, you react. But here you have all the time in the world to choke, to think about it, to lose your confidence, to remember whether you made it or missed it last time. So I think about every shot in pool is like that free throw. We have to create the perfect swing. And so if you want to protect and strengthen your mind when you're doing these kinds of drills, I always say, he's giving you options to have it be stronger, because you don't want to have a ceiling, right? You always want to feel like you can push yourself a little bit better. But when you get started, when I go, okay, well, if I'm playing the ghost, or if I'm trying to should I start trying to run 3 balls, 5 balls, 8 balls? And where I would like you to start is somewhere around the 60%, 65% of the time you can make this shot. If you can execute the first drill he showed you with the 5 balls at least 60% of the time, then you work on that till it's 95, 100% of the time. And then once you do that, you could make it just a little bit tougher. And then you get that. Now you'll be back to 60% and you push yourself up. Because if you shoot a shot that you're going to be missing most of the time, you're basically practicing missing. And that's what your mind remembers. It just remembers miss, 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 miss. And what we want to do is we want your mind to constantly be encouraged and gain confidence that, no, this is something I know. And so you always want to start a drill where you're executing it at least 60% of the time. Push yourself higher. Now you're ready. Because I find a lot of people, they want to play the ghost and they can barely run 3 balls and they just constantly try to break and run all 9 balls. And so they're just constantly seeing themselves lose, 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 lose. So think about all of these drills. Look at where you are at your game, in your home, in your hometown, and say, okay, instead of your ego or your mind or your lack of ego tell you what you're ready for, what you're not, look at your percentages of execution and go from there.
That was very, very well said. So last thing I'm going to show you is an awesome version of pool that I've shown on my channel. I've actually played Shane Van Boning in this game, and he shut me up real quick. But it's a super fun game. I always get corrected when I try to say the name. Some people call it carom, but it's not carom because it's not on the carom table. I just call it Russian pool, and that might be wrong. That's what I call it. You can call it whatever you want. I do not care. So this is called Russian pool, and I get a lot of eyes when I start playing this at a pool hall, and especially from older people, they're like, what is this young guy doing? So you throw out some balls. Usually you rack it, but I'm not going to play a whole game. But usually you rack it with the cue ball at the top of the rack instead of an object ball. You would take an object ball, and the goal of this game is to hit an object ball off of the cue ball and make it into the pocket and keep going. Now, why would you want to practice scratching, some of you might ask? Well, the way I view it, if you know how to scratch, then you know how not to scratch. So this really improves your knowledge of your tangent lines. If you don't know what a tangent line is, wherever with a sliding ball, am I saying that right, Jeanette? With a sliding ball that goes 90 degrees. So if this cue ball were to go straight into this rail with a sliding ball, this 13 ball were to go right there, 90 degrees from the contact point. So you can, this is basic stuff that a lot of people overlook, and it's super, super helpful. So practicing this game, and you don't have to be good at it. I'm not necessarily the best at it, but it's a fun way to practice. And that's what it's all about for players that aren't at the professional level of your Moscone Cup players. You want to have fun while you're practicing. You don't just want to be sitting there for a couple hours making balls. You gotta change it up a bit and find some ways to challenge yourself while you're still having fun. So if you wanted to shoot a shot practicing your cue ball positioning in this game, it's a bit harder than you might think. But if you were to play a shot like this 14 ball, trying to bank it in the side, you can play shots like that. I don't really mind. You can do what you want. But sorry, my shoes just fell from when I did that railroad shot. But if you do accidentally make a ball, like I just did with that cue ball, it does come back onto the table in this game. But this is a great game just to practice. You can play it with your friends, like a one-pocket game. Whoever makes 8 balls first wins. I've done that a lot. You can play, if you're a gambling man, you play ring games. You can play, I played a ring game with this for $1 a ball, just for some fun stuff with some friends. So this is a great game to practice your tangent lines and to also just have fun with it. So I think we have a few questions. We're going to open the floor for a Q&A. So I have some questions right here for me and Jeanette. I'll pull up a chair. And the first question we have is, who was your biggest influencer in becoming a pool player? I'm going to ask that to Jeanette first, and then I'll share my side. Jeanette, you are muted. You're welcome.
I had my sweet little dog wanted to get on camera, but we've had so that I muted him myself for a second. I would say the biggest influence, and I'm from New York City, so we have got a lot of great players around, and so we did have Mike Siegel and Steve Mizrak and a lot of Grady Matthews coming around. And when I started playing, there was a gentleman named Gene Nagy, who was an older gentleman, I guess back in the day. He was a champion. And when I met him, he would just practice on the pool table, and everyone would talk about him. And how great he was back in the day, but he stopped competing. And it was because he just couldn't stand the pressure of competing, but he loved the game. So I'd play with him, but his only rule was he never kept score. He just didn't want to compete. So I didn't care. He was, one of the greatest. So I just wanted the opportunity to play him. So I'm very competitive. I know you guys would never guess that, but I am. And so when I started playing against him, it bothered me because I really wasn't any competition compared to him, but I still liked it to measure myself. But in the end, I played with him throughout my whole journey. I would play with him all day, and every evening I'd go out and play in one of these weekly tournaments. And I would actually play well. I wasn't necessarily beating all the guys, but I was playing better under pressure than I would in practice. And I remember him saying, Jeanette, you're usually one or the other. So if you're thriving under pressure, you should be happy about that. But in the day, without keeping score, eventually I got used to not worrying about beating him. It got much more about me developing, me learning and me experimenting. I think by competing all the time and only going out there, let's say you get your own cue and your table, but then the only time you really play is to come out to league and practice and play. Everything's on the line, when you're competing. And so you only kind of do the things And what I liked about by not competing and never keeping score, I would try shots that I normally wouldn't try. And he just gave me this kind of idea that for the rest of my life, I'm going to love this game. And I hope that for the rest of my life, I get excited about learning more. And I think that for me, it changed everything throughout my career, because yes, I'm competitive and I want to play the game, but I still get so excited, and I think that I'm really blessed because of it. Because people that are just competitive, you're constantly beating yourself down mentally. Nothing's ever good enough. And in one respect, I'm the same way. It's not good enough, but I can still be proud of myself. And I think that had he not been in my life and had that kind of influence, it would have just constantly been this drive, but I wouldn't have enjoyed the journey.
My dog, here's your dog. Hey, there's someone here.
Is that yours or is that ours? I actually told the girls to take the dogs and put them back in my far bathroom, but I'm hearing him here.
I think your dog barked once and mine jumped up and ran to the door.
So Jaden, we've got someone asking what your favorite shot is.
My favorite shot. Well, it's one I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not going to be able to do it live because it actually took me probably 6 months to make it. My first time, it took 6 months to make it. I was trying the shot for 6 months before I made it. And
well, shoot it and show it to us. I'm curious.
Yeah, for sure. It's my favorite looking shot. It's my least favorite to shoot because the percentages are low. It's a shot called the satellite masse. And I'll set it up and move the cue ball with my hand so you can kind of see what's supposed to happen with the shot without me actually having to take the 6 months to shoot it. So a big guy, as one of my big influencers as well, Florian Kohler shoots this shot amazing. Venom trick shots. So I was never too fantastic at it because this shot, if you know what a masse is, you elevate your cue and you usually put backspin. But on this shot, you're actually elevating your cue and putting top right. So you have to get the cue out of the way so fast or the cue ball just flies over there. So this shot, start off with the cue ball about here and you masse with that top right spin. And it barely clears that 7 ball. Goes 1, 2, 3, and then curves around the 7 to make the 9. So the masse is actually delayed 3 rails. And I got okay at it at some point and was able to do it out here with the help of another ball. Now, if you're in the trick shot world and you want to start shooting masse shots, a big help that I have is actually playing off of another ball. So masseing off of another ball kind of just takes the spin to a next level. So if I were to just shoot it without this ball, wouldn't really work. But if I shot it with this ball, I was actually able to go 3 rails around and then actually curve out there. And so that's probably my favorite shot. It is a pain to shoot, but it looks so nice once you've got it. And then just the like relief you feel when you finally make it is just incredible. But I have another question. Out of all of the different games in our sport, which game is your personal favorite, Jeanette?
My favorite game is, it's tough. I would say in pocket billiards, meaning there's billiard tables, there's snooker tables, which are much bigger, 3-cushion or carom tables, which have no pockets. So in pocket billiards, between 8 ball, 9 ball, straight pull, 1 pocket, bank pool, a number of different games, I would say straight pull is probably my favorite. And it's the game that I first learned. I first learned how to play straight pull when I was starting, because in New York, it was very popular. And what I like about it is you're constantly, I think of it more like an artist. You know, when I think about 9 ball, there's not a lot of, you know, there's only so many options. You know, you've got to shoot the 1, then the 2, then the 3. There's no decision making really. There's usually only a certain number of options that you have. But when straight pull, not only in straight pull, it seems easy because you can shoot any ball. But the trick is also in straight pull, because you want to run a lot of balls. My high run is only 152, which I did that in New York years and years ago. And I think if I played more of it, it would have hopefully gotten over 200, but then I went right into playing in the Pro Tour and things like that. But for you to focus, I mean, even a pretty decent player, I've had some pretty solid players and I'd show them straight pull, they'd get so frustrated because they couldn't run more than 10, 12 balls. And they could run a rack of 9 ball in rotation, no problem. But it's a matter of having that stamina mentally to keep your focus and really get on the correct side of the ball and doing different things like that. So I really think any of the games have their own strengths. So with straight pull, you get to choose things. You have to be careful with your cue ball. When you're playing safety, like in 9 ball, you just have to hook them from 1 ball. And in 8 ball, you have to hide them from 7 balls. And in straight pull, you're having to hide them from all the balls. And so I really like that a lot. One of these guys was asking, I think James Edmiston was asking about how we combat discouragement. He says, I practice a lot, but sometimes I get discouraged because I should be doing better. How do you keep your head in the game and stop the self-doubt?
Well,
how much do you compete? Where do you compete?
What'd you say?
Where do you compete?
I play a lot of tournaments. I don't play in a local league. The last time I played in a league was probably 3 years ago. But when I would practice, I kind of felt the same kind of discouragement because usually when you watch pool, you're watching very high-level players and they make it look so easy. They make it look like the game is absolutely nothing. And then you get on the table and you find out it's the hardest game you've ever played in your life. So one way I combat discouragement and a way you can too is kind of change the way that you practice. So the way that you practice really should depend on your current skill level. So obviously play games in 9-ball for fun. And also that's practice as well. It's just as good practice as anything else. But on the mental side of things, you also want to have that confidence. So before I play a match, I played a pretty well-known player named Danny Smith at this tournament in Florida. And I am nowhere near as good as him. If you know well, we might be close, but if you know the Fargo rating system, at the time I was around like a 520. He was at a 730, 750 level. So complete different ranking than me. He's a very well-established player. And now before I played him, I showed up to the pool hall. Their opening hours, I did not play a single rack of 9-ball. He was over there running out racks, running out 10-ball, running out everything. And then here I was, 3 balls on the table. Only 3. I never upped it to 4. I never put 5. I put 3 balls on the table. Because if you can run 3 balls 3 times, then what's a rack of 9-ball? That's really all it is. So I would just sit over here on my table, just running 3 balls over and over again for an hour. And then we played. And so literally everybody's surprised, I was able to win. So instead of practicing those big runouts, I think a big part of how I won that match, since I knew how mismatched I was getting my mindset up, because I was running those 3 balls out. I wasn't missing. And if I were to put 9 balls or 10 balls out on the table and I missed, well, there goes my confidence just a little bit. So I think in a lot of matches, you can overcome big skill gaps with your confidence level and your mental ability. So just practice easier stuff. It might not
It's the same idea as earlier when we talked about you want to make the drills where you can practice confidence, right? Practice success rather than having it so tough that we practice missing, which will only break confidence. For me, I have a little card. I typed it on a sheet of paper and then I laminated it. Actually, I shrunk it really small and then I laminated it, and I have a card that's been in my case since a long time ago, since, early in my career. But I also had index cards and Post-it notes all throughout the house, which I still don't know if anyone kind of took it to that level, but I turned pro in 3 years and I was #1 in a year and a half. So I look back and I go, yes, that is when I was at an all-time high in terms of my confidence and things like that. A lot of my back and other health issues hadn't gotten that strong at that point. And so what I do is, on one side, I think about what I'm like when I'm playing my best pool. I mean, how do I walk? How do I think? Is your chest out? Are you slumped over? Are you sitting in your chair? Do you have a pout on your face? Or are you just focused and patiently waiting for your opportunity? And so on one side, it would say, I rise to every opportunity. I walk like a panther. Okay, so just pretend you didn't hear that. But, I looked at myself physically and mentally, my attitude when I was playing. And then on the other side, everyone's going to have their weaknesses. And for me, I would clench at the end of my stroke, which a lot of people didn't notice. Jerry Bryseth is the first person that ever noticed it, because when I have my practice strokes, it looks pretty loose. But at the end of the stroke, it would clench and it would turn my cue stick a little bit because I held it so loose. So then when you clench, it kind of turns your cue a little bit. And so I thought, on the other side, it says loose grip throughout the swing. I stay down on every shot, the positive side of the things I have to look out for, so that when I'm not playing well, you don't know what causes necessarily a slump, but you can know how to get out of it by treating the symptoms and saying, okay, when I'm not playing well, these are the types of things I do. So when I want to stay focused, I look at that card before every match. I go off somewhere and I think about, What do I look like? What do I think like? And what's my check system? What do I want to make sure I'm doing? And I practice that in the few minutes that they give you to warm up on the table. But I think being prepared for every opportunity gives you confidence in itself, but also thinking, okay, I have to know in advance and almost tell yourself, she might get lucky, you know, he might break the 9 and win. You've got to expect those, because otherwise when they get lucky, you're, oh God, and you know, you're already feeling defeated, things are unfair. And as long as you put all of your destiny in someone else's hand, you never have control. So you can never do anything about it. But if you go, okay, if I keep them sitting in the chair, they can't get lucky. And I'm going to look forward to every opportunity, because that's the thing I heard most on the women's tour about Allison and I is it didn't matter what you left us, somehow we were going to come up with some crazy bank shot or what, you know, whatever we needed to win. But we first had to be able to get up to the table and go, okay, let's do our thing. You know, I'm not going to wait for someone to bring me flowers. I'm going to sow my own seeds. I'm going to get out there and I'm going to get it no matter what it is. And so I think that that's something you have to practice, though. It's easy for me to say that to you, but there's a reason why I had Post-it notes in my car and on my fridge, and why I had that before, because we need that constant reminder, because the way that we're raised is always analyzing ourselves, always getting better, right? Better handwriting, better at multiplication tables. And so you need to have more of that constant encouragement, and the best person to do that is you.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, I'm going to jump in here if you don't mind. So
Yes.
I want to ask one. I saw a question on here that I kind of like the idea of seeing if Jaden can show it too. LGL164VL writes, he has troubles with the stop shots on the longer distance. He was wondering if you can show how to do that on a full length. Is that too much to ask?
No, it's not too much to ask at all.
How difficult that shot is. We'll kind of wrap. We're kind of long on time. We've done. I think this is kind of. No, it's good. I want to respect everybody's time here and appreciate you guys. So I think it's been great. I wasn't sure if I was when I was listening to you, Jeanette, if I was listening to a pro golfer or pro pool player, because everything that you talked about for that is what I grew up playing pool. I mean, playing golf is the same thing. So amazing the correlation between.
I actually learned about my pre-shot routine with the book Golf is Not a Game of Perfect by Dr. Bob Rotella. And I don't play golf, but someone had recommended it, and I read it, and outside of the actual mechanics of golf itself, the mental game is very, very similar. And I really feel like, and I think a lot of, I don't hide it, but I don't necessarily talk about it all the time, but I've had a lot of surgeries, and it's kept me off the pool table more than I would like. And so because of that, I think that because I had a certain amount of natural talent, very competitive, it would have been great. But because of me having to have a lot of surgeries and recuperate, I was stuck in bed and I couldn't play. So then I thought, okay, time that I normally might not have ever made, I learned about the different types of diamond systems, and I really worked on my mental game. And I think that considering even during my career, I had 12 of the 16 surgeries I've had, and fibromyalgia and ankylosing spondylitis and things like that. And with how well the women play, I don't think that I would have been able to stay in the top 3, the top 5 for as long as I have, if not for my mental game, if not for really putting in the work, you know, of thinking about preparing yourself to win and preparing for everything to go wrong. It's not that you want it to happen, but you also don't want it to blindside you, you know, where you're kind of rattled off your game. You want to be able to take anything that comes and know that you have a routine, you have a job to do, and this is the way you're going to come at it.
All
okay,
right,
Jaden.
You can do it. So what do you recommend on this long stop shot?
So this is a great drill for practicing all different kinds of stop shots. So what you do, a lot of drills you want to practice are success based. So as you get better, the shots get harder. And that's a great way to practice. And as the harder shots tend to trip you up, then you go back to the easier ones. So this is one of those. So you start, this 9 ball is always a little bit off the rail on the first diamond, and the cue ball starts on the second diamond. So you just play your normal stop shot, and you just try to keep the cue ball in this general area. Usually if it hits the rail, it's fine. And so as you do that, you get further and further back. So as you get further back, you either have to hit harder or lower on the cue ball. So you just keep moving this back, and eventually you'll get all the way back to here, where a stop shot is not so easy. These are the shots that Shane Van Boning was missing, #1 player in America. So you shoot these shots, and you have to shoot lower than you might think. You're not trying to do a draw shot. So the further back it gets, the lower and or harder you have to hit. Jeanette, do you have a better way of explaining that?
Well, something that he was talking, I wouldn't say better, but another way to think about it is when you're actually doing what he was calling a slide, when you slide the cue ball, it means that as the cue ball goes forward, if you hit below center, you've got, it's when you come down on a ball, just like in tennis or ping pong or whatever you want to say, when you do that, it causes some backward rotation. And you want it to no longer be going backward, but at some point, it starts going forward. So in order for a ball to stop, it needs to start it off going back and not yet going forward. And that's why what I was saying, what he was doing, it looks simple, but it has to be that balance. Now, as the cue ball gets further from the object ball, there's friction on the table. So the longer it's got going along the cloth, even though it's going backward, the further it is, the sooner it's going to run out of that backward spin. So the lower you have to go on the cue ball, right? So the further it is, you're going to have to go lower and harder. The harder you hit it, the longer it'll stay backwards before forward takes place. And the softer you hit it, the sooner it's going to go from back to front. So you just have to read the results of what you're doing. If, just like he said, start close, and as you get further, and if it's coming back too much, then either you're going too low or too hard. And you really want to be able to do both, because once you've got the stop shot down, as soon as you put a little angle to it, it becomes more what we call stun, and it just stuns over, meaning the cue ball will hit a ball at an angle, and instead of going, it'll always go 90 degrees along its tangent line, and then if you had top spin, it'll go 90 degrees and then forward. If it has bottom spin, it'll go 90 degrees and then come backward. The harder you hit it, the longer it'll go before that curve takes place. And so there's a lot of value to be, if you need to hit it hard, you've got to know, okay, I don't have to hit as low if I'm going to hit it hard to go along its tangent line and come back out. But there's also times that you want to hold the ball and have it stop, but not let the cue ball travel. So that means you have to aim really low, but fairly soft. Cool. It's just a lot of practice.
All right, let's. I think we got a couple more giveaways on the list here, and then we'll wrap it up. I want to, while we're getting that set teed up here to give these away, I just want to tell everybody thank you again for joining us. And Jeanette, great to see you again. I haven't seen you in person for quite a while. So
Yeah.
And,
yes, it's been a while.
Yeah, and I hope that your health and back and everything is getting better. And Jaden, thanks again for joining us. I think it was a wonderful event. I really, I don't shoot as much pool as I would like to, but watching you guys do this, it inspires me to work on shots and do things. So I'll probably shoot some pool here tonight with my kids when we get done. So hopefully everybody.
It's a great thing to do with your family.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully everybody that tuned in here has enjoyed it as much as I have.
And also, Ryan, just want to mention real quick after this giveaway, maybe we can get a couple more of these questions answered. Just a couple quick ones. They don't have to be lengthy answers, just quick. So we have one, how do you develop a good stroke? We have a couple other ones after we spin the wheel.
Okay.
Yeah, I know somebody was asking if I still compete, and I do some. I was actually going to play and do some trick shots for you guys this time, so maybe next time, but I was supposed to have a little. So hopefully we'll get to Dave Loser, maybe. Hopefully I said that right. But Dave, congratulations. But hopefully, if you guys check me out on my Facebook page, Jeanette Lee, the Black Widow, and my Twitter handle is Black Widow, you'll find out whenever I'm competing because I've been trying to stream.
Yes.
What?
That's
Jimmy
my,
Rosado?
that's my friend. I'm over at his house like every weekend. I can't believe you won.
Oh, cool.
That's amazing.
I don't
Congratulations.
know, is that do we have to disqualify him for
That's
now?
what I was thinking. We should definitely. Like, man, Jason, how come you, Jaden, you gave it away?
How many more are we giving away here? Is this the last one?
I believe this is awesome.
Okay.
Just to remind everybody, we'll be
Bill
mailing
Sulin.
and we'll be mailing those out in the next few days, so you should be getting your prizes. So, all right, and Josh, you said there was one other question that you wanted to have answered.
Yeah, let's see.
We'll just keep the answers short so that we
Yeah,
can,
and
so that
Aaron,
we can get more.
yeah, Aaron Thomas had a question. How do you develop a good stroke?
A good
That's a
way.
big question, though.
Yeah, that's a big question, and
Yeah.
the way I'm going to answer it, this may sound absolutely crazy, but there are a lot of people that don't know where center on the cue ball is. You may think you know, you probably don't, and that goes for literally everyone that has ever played. Probably don't know where center is, and it's okay, everyone does it, but a good way to correct yourself is have someone take a picture above where you're hitting the cue ball. Actually see where you're hitting. Like, have someone take a picture from the side of the cue ball, have someone take a picture from above, and then you can start to work on your stroke by just shooting balls and trying to hit center. It sounds so basic, but really the basic things is all pool is. That's why you see pool players, professional players make the game look so simple. It's because they're doing all the basic things right.
So paying attention to your Q-tip accuracy on the cue ball is what he's saying a lot of people take for granted. When it comes to the stroke, I like to think of it much more like a pendulum swing versus a back and forth motion. So if you think about, I think you guys can see my arm. I think about it when you're down shooting and your tip is at the cue ball. So if this is it, when the tip is at the cue ball, you want to make sure that as you're down the shot, your hand is at the bottom of the swing. So whether or not you stand up more, I get down low on the ball, but either way, your arm should be perpendicular to the ground. It should be at the bottom of the swing on contact. And then depending on the speed of the shot, just like you would a ball, the harder you want to throw it, the further the swing you take, but not the faster. You're not going, right? There's a swing, so you're taking a nice slow back swing, pause, follow through. So if you see us, a lot of amateurs, I'll see their stroke going, and in fact, the length of the swing is back and forth the same amount. Whereas when you see us, if we want to hit a ball softly, we choke up a little bit and it's just a soft, short. And as we go further, we pull back a little bit more, but there's always a slow back swing, pause, and an accelerated follow through. So for me, I very much pictured a child on a swing, and I'll say, okay, you've got this baby on a swing. And as you pull it up, pause, and then you're still guiding it. You're never going to go up and yank. And I think that's something that's probably in golf also. They go up and I feel them just yank down at the bottom of the swing when they want speed. And I like to think of it more as if you want power and accuracy, you want to go up, pause, come down. So you're guiding, you're making sure that you're on the same track coming down as you did backward. Up, pause, guide it, and you're really pushing kind of towards the bottom, right? If you think about a child, you really don't push or accelerate until you're more the lower part of it. So I think that practicing that and feeling that and visualizing that will really help develop your stroke also. Because it's not always something you can see. It's something that you have to kind of feel and have some mental imagery as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Jeanette. real quick, what is the best tip to use for a masse shot?
Probably a soft tip. So I always use soft tips when I'm when I'm doing trick shots. It just gets more spin on the ball. The brand that I use is called Elk Master Soft, and also Kamui is a great brand to use. So I usually use those two, but yeah, a soft tip is usually the best.
The way that I think about it with spins, and when he was saying masse shot earlier, for those of you that doesn't know, it just means extreme spin. We're going further outside of center. And so if you look at break cues where we don't want a ton of spin, they tend to have a flatter, harder tip. And then you look at three cushion billiards, which has a very rounded tip. And so the more, just like he said, the more spin you want to go and the more outside of the cue ball, the rounder and the softer you want that tip to be. And then of course you're talking about the joint and all the other factors, but with tips usually harder and flatter for breaking, jumping, things like that. And then accuracy with spin, because, you know, if you have a flatter tip and you go all the way outside, it's not going to really grab it well. You need the tip to be rounded also to grab at the bottom and the top of the ball as well.
All right.
Awesome. And then I think we may have two more. Unless you already answered, Jim. What resources do you recommend if you want to improve?
Drills, best way. Very simple answer.
Yeah, so I think Nick Varner has a good drill book. Ray Martin, 99 Critical Shots of Pool. That's
Matthew's book,
excuse me?
the Mike Massey book, the 8-ball patterns book. That's a good
Oh
one.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of, but just like he said, drills. If you want to look at different resources, look for ones that have drills, and I think, yeah, Mike Massey's put a great book out. Mark Wilson, this is the most thorough book ever, and it's called Play Great Pool by Mark Wilson. And he co-authored it with a friend of mine, Don Wilson. I think he worked on that for 15 years. But it's got a ton of different drills and a great understanding of the book, of the game, and different things that you can practice and techniques that will help you with all different parts of your game, not just cue ball control or stroke and things like that. And Jerry Bryseth made a really nice set of DVDs that he made with BCA back when, the Billiards Congress of America, back when. And then I've got my Black Widow's Guide to Killer Pool also, but YouTube's got a lot as well. And I know that with the APA, we kind of work together. So I have a series of pool tips on YouTube that you can find on my channel as well as the APA's channel. And I know Tom Rossman has a lot of material out there that's all about working on the game. Dr. Q Rossman.
Awesome. And thank you so much, Jeanette, for all the information. And we have one last question, and it's specifically for Jaden. Jaden, trick shot man, what's your favorite shot? This is from Love Shark Pog.
We did that earlier. I'm
okay,
sorry.
cool. I'm glad we answered that. Let's go. There we go. All questions have been answered.
Yeah, I was trying to kind of chat. I hope you guys don't think I was trying to do some work, but every now and then I was answering some of the chat questions.
No worries.
It's so much fun.
Absolutely great. All right, guys. Thanks so much. And thanks everybody for joining us. And hopefully everybody has a good night and stays healthy. And we'll see you.
And remember, all attendees will receive a special discount code.
Awesome. And Jaden, thank you so much. Much respect. I enjoyed spending this time with you, and I wish you the best. Hopefully I'll see you again sometime.
Yes, of course.
Okay, bye.
All right, guys. Thanks, Jeanette.
Bye,
And everyone that's still on. We are having another event with Jaden October 15th. So stay tuned for that.
All right.